Manchester United and that growing possibility there won't be any forwards coming into the club on deadline day. Kaveh, what's your understanding?
Well, I think we should start off by talking about Mathys Tel. And I think the most illuminating way to look at this potential deal is to look at exactly what Sky Germany are reporting. Because a couple of our reporters at Sky Germany have brilliant contacts at Bayern Munich. And all the information about this potential deal is coming out of Bayern Munich. Manchester United, Arsenal are not saying very much. Now, this evening, Sky Germany are reporting just now that negotiations between Manchester United and Bayern Munich for Tel have collapsed. And they are also saying the player himself wants to move to Manchester United, but Bayern Munich are not willing to let him go just on loan, because last week they had an offer of £50 million permanent deal. So Bayern Munich saying, look, we understand you want to go to Manchester United, but you're not just going there with a loan and an option. We want something more concrete. Interestingly, Sky Germany also say Arsenal are still in the race to sign Mathys Tel. Now, I don't have information on whether he wants to go to Arsenal, but I'm presuming that if he wants to move to Manchester United, he would also want to go to Arsenal, especially if he watched their performance against Manchester City today.
Mark, there was no Joshua Zirkzee, there was no Rasmus Højlund in Ruben Amorim's starting 11 against Crystal Palace this afternoon. What message was he sending there?
I think that was a clear message from the Manchester United head coach to say, I'm not entirely comfortable with the options I have as number nines. That's why I'm prepared to play Kobbie Mainoo as a false number nine. You had Ahmad on one hand, you had obviously Alejandro Garnacho playing on the other side as well. But the fact that you're playing two of your key strikers from the bench shows you actually, I'm not happy, and we've still got 24 plus hours to try and get something sorted. Therefore, my message to the hierarchy at this football club is try and sort this out, because this could be the difference between us finishing strongly this season and not. I want a striker. I'm not comfortable with the ones I have. Therefore, let's try and get something sorted. Now, of course, this was a big topic of conversation in the post-match press conference, not only the fact that they lost at Old Trafford today, but the fact that they didn't score any goals without a recognised striker on the pitch. And as we say, journalists ready to ask that question to the Manchester United boss to try and get his thoughts and understanding as to why he went with the starting 11 he did. Here's what he said in the post-match press conference.
Yeah, we have to improve as a team to score goals, and we are trying the best to improve the team. This market is really hard on the clubs. To make some deals here, it's hard. Then you have this urgency. Sometimes when you are in these moments, you make some mistakes. We are trying everything. Yes, we want so bad to improve. I want so bad to improve the team. I know what the team needs, but sometimes it's possible or not. But we are trying everything.
Rob, Ruben Amorim says that they're trying everything. Do you think they need to do something in this transfer window, or do they need to take a step back and then focus on the summer window?
I think the number one is the transfer window, because I think they're really starting to plan now for the summer. Because a club like Manchester United, they're going to be ideally in a situation where they're 6 months ahead. So in order to get to the summer, first of all, you have to figure out what is your budgets, what does it look, what does the club look like now? And that's why I think people like Marcus Rashford going to Villa, that's been on the table. The possibility of young players like Garnacho, maybe Mainoo, moving on, is to balance the books, is to start preparing for what are we going to have in the summer? How do we get players? How do we get money and budgets correct? Well, we also need to release players, because like one of the letters from Manchester United this past couple of weeks was that they're in danger of PSR. So they're starting to clearly plan for that, and also plan for what does a Ruben Amorim team look like, and what does he need? So in order to get that, they're going to have to do it in the summer.
Talking of Ruben Amorim, though, what have you made of his start as Manchester United's head coach?
Do you know what? I think the number one thing, I really like him. I like who he is. I like how he represents himself. I love how honest he is. He's very truthful. He's very passionate. So I love that about him. And I tell you, it's been very, very difficult. I think what he's realized is this job is harder than what he predicted and anything that he could have imagined. This is way harder than that. And I think there's been a lot of things that maybe he didn't see because, for example, he's looking at Manchester United moving from Sporting and he's looking at it and thinking, oh, I'm going to have a young Garnacho. I'm going to have a young Mainu. I'm going to have a Rashford. I'm going to have a Xerxes just come in, a Højlund, young players. Look at the back. Euro is coming. I got a Martinez. De Ligt has just come in. I've got a decent team. We can add to that. And he's found that maybe all of those players are not going to play for him. They're not the right players for him. And I think that's where his big thing is going to be in the next 3 months. But I like him. I think he's the right guy for Manchester United. Are they going to be able to improve? And improve, I mean, on the pitch is in results, the right people, the right players that he needs. Because what he's done is he spent a few months looking at playing everybody and saying, who's with me? Who's with this Manchester United project and who is not? And I think he's starting to realise who's not right now.
Kaveh, Rob says that he is the right guy. What have you made of the media reaction to Ruben Amorim? Do you think they've been fair with him, or do you think that maybe Ruben Amorim's almost playing a blinder here because of all of these comments that he's coming out with? He's almost put the focus on the players, hasn't he?
I think, look, the media, we obviously love Ruben Amorim because he's a breath of fresh air. He says what he thinks. He's very honest. He wears his heart on his sleeve. You know, he said a couple of controversial things that people thought he may have sort of got a rap on the knuckles from the people upstairs at United. The first one was when he said this is the worst United team ever. But even though he said that, a player like Mathys Tel, who people were saying he could be the next Kylian Mbappe, he still wants to come to Manchester United. Then he said that he'd rather have his 63-year-old goalkeeping coach on the bench than Marcus Rashford. And people said, what are you doing? Why are you saying that? That is going to affect what Manchester United are going to be able to get for Marcus Rashford. Well, fast forward a couple of days and it hasn't, because on paper it looks like United are getting a pretty decent deal from Aston Villa. Or is it a £40 million option to buy? Aston Villa potentially paying up to 90% of his wages. So I don't think Ruben Amorim, being honest, has actually ended up hurting Manchester United that much. I think the bigger picture at Manchester United is that I don't really want to kick a club when they're down, but the fall off has just been incredible to witness, because a year, 18 months ago, we were talking about the possibility of new Qatari owners coming into Manchester United, and they were going to pay off all the debts. They were going to build a new stadium. They were going to regenerate the whole area around Old Trafford. It was going to be, you know, a project to make Manchester United great again. They meant business. Now, you think every week it's almost worse than it's ever been at Manchester United. You know, I mean, under Ed Woodward, Manchester United were in the top four, and people were complaining and saying it was a disaster and wanting him out. I'm not saying that things weren't bad under Ed Woodward, but now when you look back at those days, you almost, if you're a United fan, you miss those days because, okay, you weren't winning the title, but under Jose Mourinho, you were finishing second. Under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, there was still an exciting team and good results, and perhaps United should have stayed with him. So, having said that, I don't want to kick them when they're down. I'm just going to finish off by saying that I don't want to talk about it because, you know, has there ever been a club who have gone from such heights to such depths? And if you ask my personal opinion about why it's happened, I would say it's pretty much all because of the ownership model. And I think any club in the world who have the ownership model that Manchester United have would struggle in the same way eventually.
There's been so many changes in football over the last few years. I think the teams that have got good structures, good people, use data to recruit the right players and have really good people around that recruitment process are the ones that are catching up with the top six or the historic top six. No longer is it about how much money you've got, because everyone's got loads of money. They can all go and attract some of the best players from European football. But you look at Brentford, you look at Bournemouth, look at Brighton, look at Forest. They're all doing better than the likes of Spurs and Manchester United now. Why? And I think you look at every single one of those clubs.
It's no surprise when those sides beat United. It's not a shock today that Crystal Palace have beaten Manchester United. No. It's not a shock when Brighton or Bournemouth beat Manchester United. It's almost expected. This is where United are.
Yeah, and because these teams have got such good structures in place and they've done so much good work with recruitment, they've built really good squads, they're coached really well, they've got really good head coaches, that the gap's gone now. And Manchester United have been, you know, they say they want to be best in class, but over the last few years, they haven't been best in class, and that's why they've been caught up.
Rob, you obviously played at a time when Manchester United were at their absolute pomp. Can you actually believe the fall-off since when you were playing to what they are now?
No, I can't believe that. I think it's such a huge drop. It's such a huge drop in who Manchester United are, because when I was playing against Manchester United, you almost went into the game thinking, wow, this is one of the best teams. You look on the side, Alex Ferguson's on the side. You look over here, is Ronaldo's playing. You look at the centre-backs, it's Rio Ferdinand. You look in midfield, there's Scholes, there's Keane, and Van Nistelrooy's over there. And I remember the feeling of, this is so tough. But they're top players. I think the biggest thing is, and the biggest job Ruben Amorim is faced now is, I think the biggest thing is not who the players are, and it's not who they're going to sign, is can you build the culture of winning, the culture of elite professionals in your football club. And it's not the star name that's going to make you better and get back to that level. It's going to be the culture of elite professional masters at work. That's, I think, his biggest job. And I think that's what he's trying to find out, because it's about, okay, who has that already, and then who can we bring in to add to that and continue to build this Ruben Amorim project.
One of those star names that's on his way out is Marcus Rashford. When you look at that situation and you've got someone who is one of their own, effectively, and is now leaving the football club, given what's happened in the last 18 months to 2 years, what's your overriding emotion about what's happened to Rashford?
For me, like I said earlier, as a romantic football fan of wanting to see a talented player do so well, I'm very sad, because I want Marcus Rashford to do well. I want to see him flying down the wing, and I think, wow, look at his pace, look at his dribbling. What about his cross? What about that finish? I want to say that about Marcus Rashford. So it's sad that I'm not getting to see that, and I'm not seeing that often. And we want Marcus Rashford to be on that level. I hope this Aston Villa move is that, but that's my overriding feeling of the Marcus Rashford situation, because he is a young player that's come through the system at Manchester United. He's been there, and he's been a great player at times, but the last 2.5 years, your level has dropped completely. And unfortunately, because it's dropped so bad, so low, you now have to move on, because you're now not at the elite level. It's up to you whether you want to get back to there. That's going to be the test. That is going to be the test. But you're not at that level. And I think it's one player, and let's not forget there's other players involved with it, that is not contributed to the last 2-3 years of Manchester United's culture dropping down to a low level.
Ruben Amorim says Manchester United are trying everything to improve before Monday's transfer deadline, having suffered a damaging defeat to Crystal Palace and lost Lisandro Martinez to injury. The Red Devils' run of 3 wins in all competitions came an abrupt end on Sunday afternoon as Jean-Philippe Mateta's brace helped the Eagles soar to a 4th Old Trafford triumph in their last 6 visits. The 2-0 defeat was United's 11th league loss of the season, underlining the rebuild required at a club that has so far this window brought in Lex left-back Patrick Dorgu, 20, and unproven 18-year-old Arsenal defender Aidan Heaven. The pair were introduced before kick-off, and Amorim hopes further new blood arrives by Monday's deadline as Marcus Rashford prepares to follow Antony out of the club by joining Aston Villa on an initial loan. "We are trying everything to improve the team without doing mistakes of the past and trying to balance the urgency of the moment," the United head coach said. "So, we know all of the aspects of our club in the moment, but we are trying everything." Asked if Rashford leaving helps in that respect, Amorim said, "We'll see. There is one more day. Let's wait until the window closes." Rashford underwent a medical on Sunday ahead of joining Villa, who are understood to be covering at least 75 of his £300,000+ weekly salary. That figure could reach up to 90 depending on performance-based bonuses, and the option to make the move permanent is reported to be 40 million. Put to Amorim, it could look humiliating if Rashford is scoring goals at Villa if United struggle in front of goal, he said. Humiliating? It's not embarrassing. When you loan a player, and I don't think it's official, you expect him to play and to improve, so there is nothing humiliating there. I understand the question, but I am just focused on my players, that's all. When the window closes, I will be really focused on just our team and to improve our team. Kobbie Mainoo was surprisingly started through the middle against Palace, with goal-shy strikers Joshua Zirkzee and Rasmus Højlund named among the substitutes. Bayern Munich forward Mathys Tel and Chelsea's Christopher Nkunku are options being explored as United seek to bolster their faltering frontline. Amorim sidestepped a direct question about Tel, but said it's clear we need to improve. The need for upgrades was clear as Palace inflicted a loss that was compounded by Martinez leaving the field on a stretcher in tears after his left knee buckled. Laika is really important for us, not just as a football player but the character he has, especially in this hard moment, Amorim said. Now it's time for us to help Laika. I think it's a bad situation. Let's wait to assess things with the doctor, but I think it's a serious situation. As United reel from this hard day, Palace returned to the capital buoyed by a third straight-away win on the road. Eagles boss Oliver Glasner, who expects one more signing before the deadline, said, "For me personally, it was my first game here at Old Trafford. It feels very special.